Good morning, beautiful souls. Namaste and welcome to my channel, guys. This is a video on wounding. I'm posting this on my YouTube channel, but I'm also going to post this into my Divine Feminine group that I run on Facebook. So welcome, girls. I know I've been saying that I'm going to do this for about a week, but due to my own personal development and my own healing, we're all on our journey, you know, things prop up, and I need to be in alignment and I need to be in the right place to be able to put this information out myself, okay? So thank you for being so patient with me. But yeah, this is just my story and my interpretation, I guess, and the things that I've learned along my journey on how distorted feminines first get created, okay, how we become distorted in the first place, and distorted masculines, and how we can turn that distortion around, okay, which we're all meant to do, to become our divine feminine selves, which we were born in this world actually being. You know, when we're born into this world, every single one of us, none of us have fears, none of us have doubts, none of us have bad programming. We're all born absolutely perfect and divine, okay? The universe doesn't make mistakes. You are here for a reason. You know, there's no mistake that you are here for a reason. But unfortunately, due to parental narcissism, societal narcissism, societal control, all this stuff that tells a child that it has to be a certain way, gets involved in the child's mentality, in the child's development when the brain is still developing from the age of 0 to 7, and it distorts us, whether we be masculines or feminine. So we live off the wounds that are created from the childhood. So as you can see by the title, this video is about wounding. Again, I'm going to talk about how a distorted, feminine is made, like I said, and how we can get back to that divinity. So how is a divine feminine made? Okay, a divine feminine will be put in, first of all, they're empathic, they're sensitive, they're clever, they're creative, they're rebellious. Okay, so if you feel like that, if you feel like any of them things, like you didn't quite fit into your family, okay, there is a reason. Okay, there is a massive reason that you probably thought all your life there was something wrong with you, but actually you're absolutely perfect, and there is something wrong with the people around you who makes you feel less than, okay? So yeah, paternal and maternal narcissism. How does that affect a child? Okay, so if you're brought up by a narcissistic parent, or narcissistic, both of them parents, okay, narcissists are very controlling and very ego based. Okay, so if a narcissist has a child, they will expect that child to be perfect, to do everything that they want them to do. But being a divine feminine, I guess, okay, you're going to be very rebellious, you're not going to quite fit in, you're going to have your own mind at a very young age. Now, to a narcissistic parent, they don't like that, okay, because their offspring is a part of them, okay? It's like an image that they portray to the world, okay? And if you don't quite fit that image, then you will be the scapegoat in the family, okay? You will be blamed, you will be shamed, you will be told that you're not good enough, okay? So the divine feminine goes through many of these situations all through her life, very, very early on, okay? Narcissism in parenting can, the narcissistic parent has no empathy, okay, and has no emotional love, okay? If they happen to have a child that they can control, and the child becomes really good, okay, and does everything the parent wants them to, then again, that is not, they're not doing that from a place of love. They're doing that because they want something in return, okay? But unfortunately, the programmed and enabled child doesn't understand this because they are just a child, and they grow up with narcissism, and they have issues in their life due to emotion. They're very unemotional, and this is how we make narcissists. But on the other end of the spectrum, when an empathic person, rebellious person knows their own mind, has a narcissistic parent, then that's where the red flags in the narcissistic parent totally and utterly come up. The narcissistic parent will not allow the child to be their true authentic self, okay? And if they do show signs of being their true authentic self and being, talented, then the narcissistic parent will not accept that and will not show that child love and acceptance and gratitude and positivity, because the narcissistic parent sees something in that child that is missing inside them, okay? And narcissists are ruled by their ego, okay, and nobody can be better than them. So instead of being proud of that child, which any normal, balanced parent would be, they reject the child, and then in turn the child rejects himself, okay? So the child will grow up with low self-worth issues, abandonment wounds, rejection wounds, and this will go in. It'll start with parenting, and then obviously you go to school then when you're 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're still having this an emotional not being loved care of your parents, whether it be your mum, your dad, or both. You're gonna mimic that in the relationship. So friendships are going to become hard. You're going to feel like you don't fit in, because we all come across confident people, and if you come across a confident person when you're in school, being a damaged, wounded feminine, a distorted feminine, not knowing her worth, you will feel there's something wrong with you. If anybody comes into your reality and tests you, instead of being strong and instead of being confident in who you are, because you haven't had that nurturing when you were young, you will think that it's you, okay? And you will feel guilt, you will feel shame, and you will run away because you're scared in some way that people don't like you, okay? This is something that I have lived with, and this is why I'm saying this is the story of a divine feminine in my eyes, because I like to teach and I like to heal through my experiences, because I have done many things and people can say made mistakes, but the further along I'm going on my spiritual path, I'm understanding that there is no mistakes, okay? The divine feminine has to go through every single thing to find herself again, okay? To crack the darkness and bring in the light where she needs to heal. So if you feel like you've been in, like for me, it manifested, and I've said before in previous videos, it manifested for me in toxic relationships. So my mother was a covert narcissist. She'd done absolutely everything, and a sociopath, I kind of guess, because sociopaths, there's all different spectrums of narcissism, okay? Some can be very tame. You've got grandiose narcissists who just think they're amazing, and then you've got the wounded narcissist, I guess, and sociopathic narcissists, which are a little bit harder to detect, because a sociopathic narcissist will never show that side of them to the outside. So they will come in, like my mum was society thought of her, okay? And I don't blame her, because it comes from generations, okay? And this is why we're here right now in 2022 going through the ascension journey, so we can heal these wounds from our ancestors, so we can clear up the karma. But again, this will be another video, and write new timelines for our babies, okay? But yeah, from my experience of being a wounded feminine, and I didn't know this, guys, okay? I didn't know. I just was always told there's something wrong with you. You're crazy, you're nuts. Because what the narcissist will do is antagonize you, okay? Will antagonize you. And if you are full of pain, and you don't know where this pain comes from, especially from a young age, you're going to automatically think that it's you. Again, I go back to when kids do it in school to you. If you get rejected, if you're not cool enough to fit in with the cool girls or the cool boys, you're going to think it's you. But it comes from actually way before that. When a child is born, their brain is like a sponge. So from the age of 0, from when you bring that baby home, when it comes out of the mum's womb, to the age of 7, all that brain does is soak in to its subconscious brain, okay? What we actually run on, with our fears, our doubts, our pains, our guilt, our shame comes from. And it'll program it into the child's brain up until the age of 7. So after the age of 7, whatever goes in that brain is already hardwired in there, okay? So the child will start acting out how it thinks it's supposed to be. Okay, so for me, like I said, my mother was very how to fit into society, but me being an Aquarius, I'm quite a rebel. So, and my dad was the empath in this relationship, okay, in this dynamic. So you will get, hopefully, somebody in your life that will show you unconditional love, okay? So you will notice the difference between what that person is giving you, okay, judgments, cruelty, making you feel less and making you feel like there's something wrong with you, to somebody that just shows you unconditional love, okay? And that's exactly what I had in my dynamics growing up. My dad was the empath, and luckily for me, he used to say to me, whatever your mum does, do the opposite. So I was kind of like in the phase of being a teenager, and I rebelled, okay? I really, really rebelled, but little did I know, because I didn't have my own mind. I was still working on these programs. I jumped into relationships that treated me exactly the same way as what my mother treated me. How crazy is that? You know, I ran away from that love, but subconsciously I was attracting that love. So I was attracting covert narcissists into my life who would control me. My first ex was very controlling. I wasn't allowed to talk to my friends, I wasn't allowed to go out, all that. And the second ex was, I kind of like leveled up each narcissist. So I really feel like it's the universe has been testing me until I heal this narcissism. And this is why we continue to repeat the cycle. So if you're there and you're thinking, oh my God, I've had like me, three toxic relationships now, then there is something toxic inside of you, and that is nothing wrong with you, absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're just living on the programs that your parents, or the bad behavior in school, or the boyfriend that rejected you done to you, and it's kind of like you're mimicking it through your relationships and through your friendships. Spirit will show this to you, okay, every single time until you heal it, okay? It's a very beautiful journey, but it's a very painful journey, you know. Being a distorted feminine, living on their wounds, you will be full of anger, full of resentment, full of pain, full of frustration, full of confusion, full of not fitting in, full of not accepting yourself, full of chasing people for love, full of, if somebody does treat you wrong in any way, shape or form, you somehow subconsciously, even though you know that person's treating you wrong, think that it's you, okay? And distorted femininity can also be, it can also come into, like I said, it gives us lack of self-worth. So it can bring in jealousy, it can bring in bitterness, and then you go down the other road of becoming the narcissist. You know, luckily, thank God, and I mean that to my angels and my guides, that I didn't become the narcissist. And I've always wanted people to do better, you know, but unfortunately not everybody thinks like this, and not everybody feels like this. So that's kind of how we develop the wounds from childhood of low self-worth, low self-value, putting up with way too much, not having boundaries, people pleasing. It can come out in all this, which results in us not knowing our own reality. And when Spirit wants to wake you up, because you need to heal, you will see these patterns become more and more in your working days. Like I said, they can come into relationships, they can also come into friendships, and they can come into family members, they can come into anybody in your reality, until you turn that mirror and stop blaming the outside world and turn it around and put it out yourself, and understand that there is a part of you that is attracting these people that needs to be healed. You know, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Like I can't be 100% on this and say it with hand on heart, because I've dealt with narcissists, and it is calculated and it is manipulated and it is cruel what they do. But in some way, shape or form, their brain was formed when they were very young. There was a trauma that happened to them when they were very young, which they will never admit, mind, okay? Because there is some form of shame that goes along with what happened to them. So the ego becomes, instead of being like a wounded person like us, okay, and taking the pain because we just come from a place of unconditional love and we can't help it, which turns into perhaps addictions, frustrations, anger, rage, and then with the bad ones. But with narcissists, they have regulated their emotions at a very young age because of the shame that they feel of something that's happened to them. Somebody hurt them in their childhood, and they realize very early on, to be able to be powerful, they need to be the ones in control. So they don't come from a place, they don't adopt the feelings that people that are born with empathetic parents do. They don't have empathy. They don't have understanding. The only person in their reality is them, because that is how they've been brought up and mimicked by their parents. So in some way, knowing that helps us empaths understand that if somebody is outside of you projecting wounds onto you, projecting shit onto you, just know that it is their wounds and their healing that they need to do, and it's not you. As soon as you realize that, then you were free, okay? You become free and understand that it wasn't you in the first place. When I first found out the word narcissist, guys, I was 30. This has been 7 years of research and healing, and, you know, there's so much to it. I think the journey back to self, back to a divine feminine, is a lifelong journey. You know, it's reprogramming ourselves into being this best version of who we are, okay? And because we've been told I just seen 1551 at a very young age that who we are isn't good enough, then we're going to have dreams, we're going to have visions, we're going to have dreams of wanting to do things, we're going to have ideas and creativity that comes from our natural feminine energy, but because there's a block there, okay, because there's pain there, because there's trauma there from what's happened in childhood, you will never be able to have the confidence to go and act on them dreams, to go and become the person that you want to become, because you're acting out of wounds, okay? And when you recognize that and you realize that it was never you in the first place. When I first found out that, like I said, I was like, wow. For years I thought that it was me. For years I was told that it was me, and I sat there and I kind of like, I must have been told by the angels or the guides, but my guides, I really went back to who was I as a child. I didn't mean to be like this. This isn't how did I turn out like this? You know, I was such a lovely kid. And then I started researching it all, and I come up with the word narcissism. You know, I loved dancing, I loved writing, I loved reading. I was a really happy kid, but because of all this pain and this trauma and this putting down and making you feel bad, then you just go, I'm just going to become it. A lot of us do. I'm just going to become this rage. I'm just going to become this mess and chaos. So we completely and utterly then stay codependent on these people, and it is again a journey back to self. So when you are a distorted feminine, you are very codependent on what other people think of you. You are looking outside of yourself for validation. And I have done this all my life. I even remember thinking to myself, I hid behind my relationships that I was in my 20s because I just didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be ridiculed. I didn't want to go through that pain that I'd gone through. So I would just hide in a painful relationship, in an abusive relationship. So I didn't have to face myself. But 7 years later, the more that I faced myself, the more of my own shadow and the toxic patterns that we all have, okay, all of us feminines have, again, they are self-programmed into us, guys, and it's not a bad thing. We all have toxic patterns. I don't care how perfect you are. Every single one of us does. But the difference between an empath and a narcissist, and this is the most important bit, okay, because you could be sitting there and thinking, well, I'm a bit of both. Yes, you're going to be a bit of both. You were brought up by a narcissistic parent, so you're going to have their traits inside of you, but every time you act on them traits, something goes wrong or something doesn't work out because it's not your true soul essence, okay? So the difference between an empath and a narcissist is one thing: recognition, realization, understanding that, fuck, I need to change, excuse my language, I don't want to be this person anymore. A narcissist, especially a grandiose narcissist, I think that a covert narcissist will feel slight shame, will feel quite slight guilt, and will come to some form of understanding and may heal. Everybody can heal, and I totally agree. I totally believe that, but it is up to the person. And somebody that has grandiose narcissism or sociopathic narcissism will never admit that they've done anything wrong. They will always deflect the blame, and they will always deflect the pain and anything that's gone on onto you. They will never take accountability for what they've done. Yeah, I hold my hands up. I'm a bit toxic. Let me heal. Show me the way. Show me the knowledge. I don't want to be this person anymore. That is how you know, because sometimes it is really hard. Again, I go back to sociopathic narcissists. They come in and they're beautiful to you. They'll do anything for you. They'll show the world one side and they'll show you a different side. But how to recognize this is telling them basically where they're going wrong, telling them that they're hurting you, telling them that the behavior isn't right. And if it is a true person, like, we could get triggered, somebody could say to me, I don't like that, and I get triggered, and we're living on our ego. But when we calm down and we work through it ourselves, we will understand and we will go, shit, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. Oh yeah, I overreacted. I apologize. You will never, ever, ever get recognition or understanding or an apology of a sociopathic narcissist or a grandiose narcissist. And the only way to deal with people like that is to remove your energy from them, because these wounds are very real. They are very real. And I'm so happy to be living in an age right now where there is so much information out there, where there is so many of us that are waking up to this concept and understanding that we're not on our own. Like, when I was going through it 7 years ago, there was very little knowledge, even down to like before 2020. I think there wasn't enough knowledge on there, but since then the world has just gone boom. The light is being shone on the darkness, and it is absolutely beautiful, and it is all for us to heal. Okay, but the first part of healing is understanding where the wound comes from, because then it takes away the shame, it takes away the guilt, it takes away the blame in ourselves, and it puts us in a place of utter surrender. And then it's up to us then to turn ourselves from the distorted feminine, maybe addictions, maybe laziness, maybe codependency, maybe underestimating ourselves. We need to work on them wounds, okay, by going into the inner child, okay, and finding out where that wound took place in the first place, and going in and giving that inner child the love that she or he never had as a baby, and it's crazy that we actually replay this over and over and over again, and sadly think that it's us, and we live half a life. And this is why I do the videos, and this is why I wanted to put this one on today, just a little bit of an explanation. There is so much to it, okay, that I'm sure I'm going to do another video on it. I just seen 2211, Namaste Spirit. But this is just like a little guideline into where they come from, paternal and maternal narcissism. And again, if you didn't, because not the grandiose narcissist, the other narcissist will act on, like my mum. Again, they blame people, but also they act like the victim, okay? And this is where perhaps we as wounded feminines act like the victim as well, okay? I know I did. It just in 2244. I know I did in my younger years. Oh, it's my ex, oh, it's my mother, oh, this is what I mean. The victim mode is still in the lower level energies, is still in codependency to other people to validate us, okay? I feel like this is a massive wound that being brought up by narcissistic parents does to us. We never feel good enough, whether we be on the narcissistic spectrum or on the empathic spectrum. Both feel the same, both have the same wound, and both feel the same pain, okay? And then it's a journey then from distorted feminism. So like I said, distortion is fears, is guilt, is shame, and then it can come out in manipulation. It can come out in being hating other feminines, okay, because deep down you hate yourself, you don't love yourself. And it can come out in just living like you're never good enough. Who wants to live like that? We need to be at a place now, we're in 2022, where we can accept ourselves and be free from all this societal programming that has gone on, I suppose, no more than 100 years, really. But again, the feminines have been suppressed for many, many, many years before that. But if you look back into the Egyptian times and the Mayan times, the feminines were actually honoured as goddesses. The masculines knew the power of a feminine. I mean, we create reality. We literally birth reality into existence, okay? And I feel like the feminines have been so downplayed. Again, it has been our programming, and it is time to wake up and understand this. But we have been so downplayed, used for sex, looked at as sex objects, and just seen as mothers sitting in the house, whatever, you know. And this is the suppressed feminine energy, and I love to see it's been going on since since the year 2000. Feminines are rising, feminines are becoming more independent, feminines are understanding that they don't need a man, but it can go too much into into masculinity then, and that can cause that is the cause of the toxic femininity, where we don't be our receptive, beautiful, confident selves, because we are living on them wounds. We're living on the past. We're living on what's happened to us. We're not living on who we are. And what's happened to us has been unfair, has been unjust, has not been real, and has not been our reality, how it should be. Okay, so by healing that, we can find ourselves again, heal our feminine energy, show up as our true authentic selves, and be confident in it, no matter what anybody or anything says. So I'm going to go now, and I hope anybody, somebody, all of you take something from this. If you do feel like you've been living on wounds all your life, then that's okay. It's the first thing is recognizing it. The first thing is accepting it, and then you go from there. The second thing is putting a plan in place and understanding triggers, being aware of your emotions. That all comes the longer that you heal. But I think the wounding and knowing exactly where it comes from for a distorted feminine, and it is a journey back to self for the feminines, okay? And I really, I know there's masculines watching this, and I know it's a journey back to self as far as stripping egos and illusions of what women really are around. For the masculines, and that's how they're waking up. But for the feminines, it's all about taking our suppressed, damaged feminine energy back, okay, from feminines or masculines in our past that have taken it away from us in some way, okay. And yeah, I'm gonna go. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'm gonna be putting a reading on in a bit, and namaste, guys.